Hey guys, Chronosphere here. So it's been a little while since we've had a video. I was like sick earlier in the week, but it was like really just a cold that was just like a sinus infection or whatever. So, but really the main reasons why I haven't done too many videos is because I'm getting ready to move. So I've been dealing with a whole lot of different, just adult stuff, trying to line up a new job, trying to, sell this place and find a new place, and trying to work out all the time frame stuff that's involved with that. So it's been an interesting, last 3 or 4 weeks or whatever. So, but it's been a while since I've done a video, so. I was going to do, and I still want to do, might do later today, a video for Primordial, a band that I really fallen in love with recently. But I wanted to do like kind of a more basic reaction to a song, just to kind of get back into the swing of things, one that wouldn't be as difficult to break down, like a song that's not quite as long. But don't get me wrong, the song we're going to do actually has it's a thrash song, but it has a lot to say, and it's got a very important, story and message behind it. So it's a really cool one. This song was not requested, but was shown to me by Zonia. So thanks, Zonia. This one, I had not heard of these guys. They're a modern thrash band from Greece. This song came out in 2013, I believe. Yes, 2013. And the song is called Brutal Decay. And the band is Chronosphere, famous for their red pants, as you'll see in the video. We're doing the video this time. It's not got a copyright claim on it, so it shouldn't get blocked or anything like that, so I'm not concerned about it. But as always, the intent of these videos is not to make any money myself. In fact, I'm not eligible for monetization. It's really just to promote the bands that I do reactions for. So, if a band is actually watching this, and they're claiming stuff individually, please don't block me. I'm trying to help you guys. I'm not making any money from this. So, and I hopefully will want to make you guys some more money. But anyways, so we're going to jump into that. And if you've been following the channel, thanks for sticking with it. Hopefully once I move, things will settle down once I get all that. It may be a couple of months before that really comes to fruition. So, but that the hope is that once I get all that stuff settled out, I can make this a more regular thing. D&D stuff will be on hold for a while, so I probably will have some more free time to dedicate to this as well. Still want to do D&D, but trying to figure out how to do it with my group, because we'll probably use Roll20 or something like that where we can play online, but that'll take a little time to get all that figured out. Anyways, so let's jump into the song. This is Brutal Decay.
That you create gives birth to products.
Whew, man. That song is that song is quite a thrasher. So, just to kind of get into some stuff with that one, the intro riff is killer on this one, and it's that that intro riff, which is kind of a, like it's the intro riff and it's the outro riff, but it's also used as a bridge, between verses as well. And then you have a variation, a cleaned up, sort of somewhat stripped down version of that. That's the riff for the actual verse itself, which is a really, I mean, just a really cool riff. I like the use of the pinch harmonics in the intro, outro, and bridge riffs version because it kind of, pinch harmonics, if they're not overused, I'm looking at you, Zach Wild, are a little bit, they add a little bit of dimension to the riff. So I like the use of it here, and we'll talk about the chorus riff in a second, which also makes use of the pinch harmonics in a really, really great way. So the chorus riff, super, super catchy, and kind of one, where you really kind of, and it's punctuated by those pinch harmonics, and the vocals, the way that the vocals hit on, particularly in the chorus, gives this a little bit of a punk influence. I wouldn't say it's like crossover or even to the extent that, like, say, Municipal Waste or, like, in my opinion, like Hexen has very much a punk vibe to their vocals. This doesn't go that far, but the way that they punctuate certain words, certain single words, to me is a very punk aesthetic. So I like the way that that's done too, primarily in the verses where you really hear that, the punk inspiration, I think. Verse 2, chorus 2, really the same as the first. There is a cool little bass noodle, like in between the first chorus, first verse, before you go into the second chorus, second verse, and an intro riff there. So there's that little bass doodle there. At the end of the second chorus and the second verse, rather than another interlude or fill or whatever, you have the actual solo at that point. And crazy big solo. There's a rhythm guitar change up underneath right before you go to the solo, as is standard for thrash. You see this in almost every thrash song. There's a change up to the rhythm guitar that is really pretty much usually only used underneath the solo. This song does things a little differently, and we'll get to that and why I think it's really the best part of the song, musically speaking. But the solo I want to talk about for a second too. Really fantastic solo. Some great, like, fast, like, sweep tapping, alternate picking, a lot of very fast alternate picking, some little bit of traditional sweep picking, kind of all mixed in there. Some great bends too, actually, as you're coming from the transition. So the transition is really the part I wanted to highlight because it's my favorite part of the song. Halfway through the solo, there's a rhythm guitar transition, which is unusual, I feel, to do that in the middle of a backing for a solo. It's such a freaking awesome riff. It's really just a crushing thrash riff, a really, really good one. And then the solo continues from there. You have some cool bends. You kind of go out on the end of the solo. And then the thing that's really neat is that transitioned rhythm guitar part continues after the solo, and you have all the other guitar come in, and you've got a harmony element for a couple of measures before you go back into the chorus for your final run of the chorus, and then a final version of the outro, to wrap up the song. Musically speaking, I mean, this is thrash. It is not. This is not a rocket science nor breakthrough. It does a couple things differently, and just really more than anything else, just great riffing, which I mean is at really the core of thrash is great riffs. Solos are important too, but I mean I feel like for thrash, especially when you look at I mean obviously the biggest thrash band, everyone knows Metallica, right? Metallica was king for James's incredible riffs, and I think no one's really going to be talking, about Kirk's amazing lead guitar playing. Sorry, Kirk. 10, 15 years from now, he has some great solos. I mean, and some of those solos are very memorable, but the reason that they're memorable partly is because of the rhythms that are established by James's guitar playing. And I mean, really, to me, James is really what holds Metallica together. When you listen to the early stuff, it was really James and Cliff that were the nucleus of what made Metallica so fierce in terms of their thrash. And the same thing is true when you look at the other big four bands. Not so much Anthrax, but Slayer. Again, Jeff Hanneman, riff master, right? Kerry King, riff master. These guys, and another good example is Megadeth, because now Dave is obviously a great lead guitar player, and he's got great supporting lead guitars. He's always had great lead supporting guitars with him, but he's a riff master, and those riffs are what make thrash, Testament, Exodus, killer riffs. That's the heart and soul of thrash. And so this song, it really succeeds as a thrash song because of its killer riff writing. So with that said, I want to take a look at the lyrics for this song, because this is a very important song lyrically speaking, which is, I think, almost a little bit unusual for thrash. You don't typically as much, when you think of thrash, you don't think of important lyrics. But I think it's important with Chronosphere to remember that these guys are from Greece. And this song, Brutal Decay, is really, at the time that this song was written, was speaking a great deal about the economic situation in Greece at the time, which, I'm not an economist, so I don't know what this current situation is. I don't think it's that much better right now than it was at that time. But as many people know, Greece had a serious economic crisis, around this time. It was really bad. And so this song, we'll go through the lyrics real quick. Each need that you create gives birth to products yet to contaminate. We've set our own demise since we've been torn apart, relationships incised. This is more of a general verse about society in general, not really necessarily so much their situation. But this, I think, this chorus, this bridge part, really, I think, kind of goes into some of the specifics. System conspiracies led us through torments to live with dignity, bow down and pray to the sanctuary of wealth. That's really part of this. I think is speaking directly to the Greek economic crisis. That Greece was a incredibly poor country at that time. They were mired in incredible debt, and really were not getting any help from anybody. And I think this video, we'll talk about the video in a second. I want to get through all the lyrics. Betrayed, illiterate, treated as non-stop machines, bewail the time we lost to be where we have been, brutal decay. You work, but someone else benefits from your toil. Since they control your mind, there's a thin line between destruction and financial balance. This is interesting because this line, this verse, is actually very anti-socialist. It's saying, you work, but someone else benefits from your toil. The idea being, now socialism, and a lot of people, I think now in modern society, get communism and socialism confused. And I think it's just a lack of education. They're very different things. So this is more, I think, talking about communism because, you say you work, but someone else benefits from your toil. Now, in capitalism, you work and you reap the benefits of the work that you do. That is the idea, the driving force behind capitalism. Now, the problem with this is that for a certain population, however large that population may be, that is repressed, poor, whatever, it's a never-ending spiral of not being able to climb out, and this is the downside to a pure capitalist system, which and I think that's where some of the confusion comes into play. We're like, America is capitalist, but has never been 100% capitalist. There's always been a strong socialist element. And I think when you see so many people now on the far right talking about, oh no, socialism, people don't realize that socialism has always been a part of who we are. It's why, Social Security. There's so many systems in our, in our modern day world, in our modern day American world, that are partly formed from a socialist idea, And I mean, there's a good reason for that, because socialism, I think, a purely capitalist society is not going to be very kind to people who are on the bottom end of your earning class. Okay, so that's the problem, and this is an interesting perspective, considering the situation that they were in. I'm a little surprised by this. But then we go back into the chorus systems conspiracies. But he does say there's a thin line between destruction and financial balance. So that, of course, is directly speaking to the financial crisis that Greece was mired in, right? And they wanted, I believe, to be independent, but they were seriously in trouble. And betrayed illiterate non-stop machines, all the time we lost. So this is all repeated. So, I mean, really, it comes down to those couple of lines. But I think the idea here, when you look at the video, okay, in the video there's a lot of, I think what people will commonly call jingoism, is like in terms of like, you've got, American flags waving, the Capitol shown. And I think the idea is that, Greece was in this terrible situation, and, America, which has such a massive amount of wealth compared to some of these other countries, was not really helping them. Now, I'm not up on the specifics of the situation. I believe that America was probably trying to help in this situation, but this is one of those ones where, this was a country that was, and this part I do remember, that they were literally on the brink of an economic collapse, like a complete, total collapse of their entire, infrastructure. And that doesn't benefit anybody, really. So other countries stepping in, there is some benefit to be gained there. Even if the problem is that, if you ask for help, you incur more debt that needs to be paid back at some point. These countries expect to be paid back, right? So that really, I think, they're caught. And I talked about that earlier, being caught in the web. In a way, Greece represents that, that bottom, earning class, right? And they're stuck in a never-ending loop. And it's the problem with that, with the capitalist mentality, is it's difficult to break out of that. Now, complete socialism, has its own drawbacks. And so that's one of the reasons why our system is the way it is, and why it was designed the way it is to incorporate elements of capitalism, heavy capitalist, but also socialist elements as well, to balance out some of the problems that are created by capitalism. So I think there are ways in which we could be more socialist and gain more benefit. But I also think we never want to completely lose all of our capitalist elements, because there is certainly something to be said for being proud of what you do and what you accomplish, and seeing the benefit of your hard work. So it's a balancing act, and I think that's part of what gets lost. So the song, it really brings about a interesting discussion, and it's a very complicated discussion. But one of the things that I think is super important now in this particular time where extremes are everywhere. We have people on the far left, we have people on the far right, and the people in the middle are the ones that are getting squeezed out in terms of ideological thinking, and that is the dangerous part of where we're at right now, because moderates on both sides, right, left, are being slowly pushed, and that is the real danger, because compromise is incredibly important to long-term survival in nearly everything, but just in general in life, compromise is important. There are certain things that you can't compromise on, but there are certain things you should compromise on. Finding that balance is part of learning to live. And so that is one of the important things that this song really kind of brings out. And it doesn't spend a lot of time talking about. It's a thrash song. It's like, I don't know, 4 minutes or something, right? Yeah, 4 minutes, 14 seconds. So, and a little bit long for a thrash song in some cases. I think a lot of times thrash songs are in that 3.5 minute mark. So this was a little bit longer, and I think that part of that is to that cool little instrumental section, with the solo, and then the subsequent cool little lead break that follows that. But yeah, this is an incredible song. I mean, for a thrash song, this is not maybe necessarily a 10 out of 10 for me, but this is like maybe a 9.5. This is just a really killer thrash song, and I wish more people knew about this band and their awesome red pants. So check these guys out. They have a lot. They've put out a couple albums. I mean, this is 2013, so I think they've done 3 or 4 albums. The first couple were solidly thrash. The most recent one I heard is kind of more thrash and roll, so like a little more rock and roll element to it, which is interesting. I actually want to hear something from their newer album to kind of see the difference. But anyways, awesome band. Big thanks to Zonia for showing these guys to me. Everyone, stay metal. I'll see you around. Calendros out.